There's a certain existential problem that I've been facing as of late. And really, it hasn't been as of late. It's been more or less my whole life, but for different reasons in the past. What I mean by that is I grew up extremely isolated in a rural environment, surrounded by trees, and with my only contact with humanity being my parents and my stepbrother and eventually my little sister. I had this idealized notion in my head of friendship, of what friendship is. I knew I wanted friends. Um, I didn't know how to attain them because I wasn't in school, and frankly, I was scared of the people who would be in school because I was an atheist growing up, and I grew up in a very, very evangelical area, and I grew up being told that I'd be ostracized for that, as I was ostracized by my mother's family, who was native to the area, unlike my father. And so, I I didn't have a frame of reference for socializing with people my own age. And when I was tasked with a social situation, it was often from the standpoint of the survivalist. So I would try to do whatever was most advantageous in that situation, which lended itself to me lying constantly. I built up a habit of lying often and well. I spent so much of my childhood constructing narratives and characters that I would then play out with the goal of being at a more advantageous vantage point in my environment. And this carried over into my education when I first got put into school when I was like 12. Um, I was just lying fucking constantly. Like there were, I didn't really have friends, but the acquaintances I had that like even resembled friends, um, they could have never been my friends because they had no idea who I was. It's like I lied about things that didn't even matter. I would just be constantly making things up. And this created a situation where I felt like I had to remember my lies all the time in order to keep them up, which was stressful in itself. But because I was gifted with a uniquely good memory, I was able to maintain it. Um, the easiness with which I was able to do this was um, a big part of the problem. Eventually, I get out of school. I start interacting with people online, and I make a deliberate effort to be more genuine with those people. I still end up falling into some old habits with some friends, and I end up losing the friends that became aware of me falling into those old dishonest habits. But in general, I make a deliberate effort to be as honest as possible with these people I end up meeting online, because I realized the effect that lying had on my mental health, um, and I realized how isolated it made me feel because when you're interacting with a room full of other people and they're not really seeing you, your self concept is not being put on display. You feel almost as though you're manipulating marionette strings. You're doing puppetry. Um, it feels like you're viewing yourself from the third person, from a bird's eye view. And it seems that no matter how genuine I be, I continue to feel that way. Um, One of the working theories I've had is because there are certain things that I've kept close to the chest, secrets that I've considered things that I'll take to my grave, that no one knows about. And maybe no one ever will know about those things. But they're not even particularly egregious. If I were to say them in this video right now, I think the majority of you watching it would think, oh, that's some femoid shit. Osaka's redeemable. unconditional positive regard, whatever. But just the mere fact that I could express them causes me discomfort. And so I hold these things very, very close to the chest. And I think no one really has a truly accurate perspective on me without that context from my past, and without those things that I end up thinking about or experiencing every day in my daily life that to some extent make up me, who I am. Nobody knows about them. And it contributes to this overall feeling of being alone, because while the caricature has become a lot more real over time, and I've been able to have a lot more moments where I feel like I'm genuinely spending time with someone, where what's happening around me is real, that I'm real. It doesn't take too long for me to fall back into how I typically feel, which is that I'm existing in some kind of purgatory. I'm at the very least watching myself from a security camera. That my friends aren't real, and it makes me feel profoundly alone. Even, I mean, sometimes even more so in the face of others. Imagine you're in a circle, and you're inside the circle, and you're surrounded by people outside of the circle. They may not even be aware that you're in the circle, mind you, but you're surrounded by people, and none of them know what it's like to be in that circle. Fundamentally, they can't understand. And you're able to converse with them, you're able to communicate information. It appears as though you're in the exact same place as they are, but in reality, you're not. You're in that circle, and everyone else is surrounding it. You're alone. That's how I feel when I spend time with people. And in that way, whenever I spend time with people, it feels like a mere distraction. As much of a shitpost that "oh, please date me" video was, I hope people realize that that was an ironic thing. There is a part of me that harbors a great affinity for the idea of being intimate with someone just so I can get the truth out. Just so I can be, in a literal and metaphorical sense, naked with them. And it's that desire, that overbearing desire for genuinity, for authenticity, that I find to be profoundly isolating. And you could look at this video and say, well, why don't you just put all your cards on the table tomorrow? If I did that, what if I got betrayed? What if what I am is too much for people? I don't trust anyone enough to not feel like I would be betrayed if they knew who I really am. And it's not even like I'm talking about anything illegal or anything particularly like morally heinous, anything that one might not even be able to guess. But to me, it's significant. And because of that, I've had to accept this idea that I'm just going to be alone. And so no, I don't require anyone to call me. I don't require anyone to knock on my door. As much as I like doing those things, I like doing them because they're distractions. I like doing those things for the few moments in which I can feel like maybe a real person. Or I can be distracted from the overarching feeling that I still feel but am not presently thinking about, that I am still alone. those moments are rare. Um, they don't make up the majority of my interactions with people. The majority of those interactions are marred by, once again, this sense that I'm alone. And I think maybe I always will be alone. I don't trust anyone to rely on them to that extent. I only really trust myself to rely on myself. And I'm not even doing that good a job of that a lot of the time. I don't even know if I would feel like a real person if I put all my cards on the table and I revealed everything to someone. What would even change? I consider the hypothetical and I think I'm opening myself up to getting hurt significantly more than I would otherwise if I continued to do the thing that I've always done. I'm opening myself up to betrayal. And for what? For it to potentially not work? I mean, it could be that I don't even want authenticity. It could be that this whole narrative that I've constructed, that the lack of 100% authenticity in my life is making me feel alone and desire isolation. That narrative could be entirely constructed. I could tomorrow reveal all of these things, keep all of my friends, and then go hang out with them, and then feel the exact same way. It could just be a matter of me being socially stunted. That maybe there's some complex layer that I, or perhaps we, do not understand, that ended up occurring, coming to be when I was a child, being homeschooled there in the forest. That perhaps forever, perhaps I am forever alone, to take a meme term, but perhaps I'll feel alone forever. I don't know. Sometimes I have to wonder if I even like anybody. I mean, I think I like my friends, generally speaking, but sometimes I have moments when I think, like, do I want any of this? Do I want anything? I mean, those are the moments when I feel like I don't enjoy anything, so of course friendship would be added in there, but it's even when I'm not that anhedonic. I talk to these people and it feels like a distraction. It feels just like a distraction. Nothing more, nothing less. And it's like, I have close bonds with people. Bonds that I'm incredibly grateful for, that many people would envy. Many people would envy my friendships. But I can't get over this feeling. Like, none of it's really real. That I'm not real. And the interactions taking place aren't real. That I am, at the end of the day, truly alone. And I have to come to terms with that.